Sorry.
Nice. So, Nagesh, you're in Hyderabad?
No, I'm actually in Mumbai. I'm
Okay.
traveling from Andheri to Worli. So
Okay.
I'm stuck in stunning traffic.
I can imagine. So,
Yeah.
Nagesh, as I wrote, this really is a love letter to Hyderabad and to its citizens and to its unique quality. Talk a little about that and how, when you came back after 10 years, 12 years, what did you rediscover, and the time that you've spent there since?
Well, the first time I actually was away for about 10 years and then came back, I made Hyderabad Blues. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was rediscovering my own city and all of those things. So that was much more of a discovery.
Right.
What happened in the last 10 years is I hadn't shot anything actively in Hyderabad because the last thing I did was Lakshmi.
Right.
And when I came to do Modern Love, uh, there was a gap in terms of how I had to look at Hyderabad again. I have never lost touch with Hyderabad because my parents still live there in the very same house that I shot Hyderabad Blues in the very same house that dad was almost born in. So they've been living in the same house for 80 odd years. So that's the place that I'm still extremely familiar with. I go back there all the time. And in the last 5 years, since they've been are almost, I would say, twice every month. I go there that often.
Right.
All my best friends are there, so I'm very familiar with that. There's a difference between that and actually lensing or telling a story about your city.
Which part of Hyderabad is that? Sorry to interrupt, Nagesh.
It's an area called Narayanguda, and Narayanguda was the core of the old Hyderabad. I mean, all these areas, Narayanguda, Abbots, all these were the desirable areas.
Right.
So middle class for sure, but
Right.
yeah. Now, the people who come to Hyderabad, including the damn drivers, have no clue where Narayanguda is.
Really?
Which blows my mind because Hyderabad, Banjara Hills was the outer limit in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
And it was where the posh people lived and all
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
Now, Banjara Hills would be the starting point for New Hyderabad.
God.
Banjara Hills, Jubilee Hills,
Jubilee Hills. Yeah.
Gachibowli, all these places are the new Hyderabad, which honestly I'm not familiar with.
Right.
I go there every once in a while to have a meal or something, but nothing that requires me to go there on a regular basis. So this was a complete discovery for me as I started location scouting for Modern Love.
Right.
And my jaw was on the floor so many times looking at. I'm like, when did this happen? The whole, outer ring road and 4 or 5 lane highways and all of those things. So
right.
Yeah.
So in a way, you were rediscovering a city that you'd already rediscovered, a couple of decades ago. So, but does its unique quality remain? What you actually bring out in Modern Love. It's multiculturalism. It's amazing food. Does that remain?
I will strongly say yes. And I think it remains in the circles that you choose to associate with.
Right.
Because if you look at a lot of the people who've come into the city in the last decade, their Hyderabad experience would be entirely different. They are more comfortable with any modern city in India today. That's what they know. The only overlap might be the Hyderabadi food, because even it doesn't matter which part of Hyderabad you live in, you'll still have to come for some good biryani and halim ever so often. My Hyderabadi experience honestly has remained true to what I grew up in, only because of my circle of friends. And they truly remind me constantly of the Hyderabad I grew up in. It was ironic because there was a complete process of self-discovery again. Uh, and I'll give you one example which kind of espouses that, is having lived in Hyderabad and then having gone to the US, there was a sea shift in the way we friends met up.
Right.
And now, clearly in my 40s and 50s, when I started going through Hyderabad much more often, this whole concept of friends meeting up,
right,
was back to when it was when I lived there in the 80s,
right,
which is people just drop in unannounced.
right,
And I used to take great umbrage to that when I had come back from the US, saying, how can people just do this? And now it's something I enjoy immensely.
yeah,
Of course, with the cell phone, you'll still drop in, you'll drop a message before you come over,
right,
but there's no plan. It's like, oh, okay, we're coming over for chai, we're
right.
coming over for dinner. Do you want to just meet up at Spice 6 for khana? It's as random as that and as last minute as that.
Right.
And that I have to only thank my friends for bringing that part of me back out again. It's
And
something that
these are people you grew up with, who you went to school with.
Some of them, yes. Some of them who I kind of knew back in the day, but never spent a lot of time with.
Right.
But in the last 20 years, since I've been back in India making films, I've rediscovered my friendship with them.
Right.
So yes, it's a combo of all of those things.
Right. So, through Modern Love, I mean, you see the wonderful women of Hyderabad. I mean, if they're all like this, I have a crush on Ritu Verma for sure. She is amazing. What a woman, and the food, and, people like Suhasini, and, of course, they're not from there necessarily, Revati. But what was it that you were trying to portray through the anthology? What was so important for you to say?
Firstly, the main reason I was drawn to Modern Love is that there is no definition of love.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So wide open to interpretation, not just in the relationships, but what it truly stands for.
Right.
And like I'm stating the obvious since you've already watched the show, but like an orphanage, if actually loving someone is letting go of
letting go,
yeah, I mean, that is just like, it's sublime
so heartbreaking
in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
And that was in the original story. I mean, it's not something that I did. That was in the original story. So it was, but I felt it very important for me as a filmmaker to make something that honestly would stand up on the international scene.
Yeah.
I wanted to put my Indianness, my Hyderabadiness, if you will, into these stories. Clearly transplant them from a Western environment, right? Because the original tales were all written by Americans.
Americans, yeah.
Yeah. And to create something which I was hoping that both the authors of these original essays and articles would be happy with at my interpretation, hopefully.
Right.
And put something out there that would be international. That was the challenge. That's what drew me to the whole project. Having said that, I want to briefly touch upon, you're the only one. I've been talking to so many who brought out Ritu's character in Fuzzy, because it was my challenge. It was the most challenging episode for me to do, because the point of view was a woman who you could argue was a little neurotic.
Yeah, but so
lovable.
Much fun. So lovable, so much fun.
Yeah. And I think something that most women relate to.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't mean the neurosis, but her point of view.
Yeah.
About the whole, why do men do this kind of thing?
Yeah. just let go for God's sake,
Exactly. Exactly.
No, but that's what I love about, and Nagesh, it's very interesting, when you look back at your filmography, your women have generally been fantastic. Look at Dor, look at the little sister in Dhanak. I mean, what marvelous women, So somehow there is, I think, that feminist in you, or I don't know what it is, but
I always tell people the reason that I enjoy writing women characters is uh, for most of cinema, the focus has always been
in the man.
yeah, whether it's the writers or the industry or the box office that kind of, set the tone. It was always that interesting men characters were explored. And
Right.
especially in India, the women was portrayed as just one-dimensional characters who came in the background, said some lines, occasionally got slapped and went away. And the 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 wealth of roles, characters that I could explore for women, it's endless.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. I was smart enough to realize that a long time ago, that this is where the game was at.
Right.
To just portray interesting women, and that hasn't stopped, because I said that back then 20 years ago, that I could be doing this for the rest of my life, and I'm sort of proving it.
Yeah.
The opportunity to write so many different roles for women.
Right. And you continue to do that. Modern Lovers is full of such women. I love the biologist. I think she's so cool. I love her group of friends. I love the stand-up comedian. I mean, they're all wonderful women, and you can see them, living their lives. It's not that they're, on paper.
Right. Like I said, it's and this honestly, the selection of the 6 stories was to be able to really deal with different facets of not just relationships, but the kind of relationships. And of course, bring Hyderabad in a big way once the stories were selected.
Right.
But we focused very hard on trying to get 6 different kinds of stories. I don't know how successful we were.
No, I think we were. It's really, and just a quick question there, Nagesh. These stories are from the Humans of New York selection, or where are they from? The original stories.
So New York Times has a bank of these modern love
articles. From there, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
and then they're adapted to India.
That's correct.
Right. Okay.
So then Amazon has a right to that archive.
Right.
And they just let us have it.
Wow.
And then we as the team read close to 200 of those, shortlisted about 20. Shortlisted about 25, and then we selected 6.
Okay. So that's how it happened.
Yeah.
So, Nagesh, quick question about your filmography. We've seen you've done it all. The indie film, now even the Telugu film, which you hadn't done. Good Luck Sakhi, yeah. And with this marvelous Kirti Suresh, she's just super talented. You've done a web series, City of Dreams. So, do you sometimes feel now you've done it all? You've done an anthology now. So, are you feeling that your filmography is sort of complete? I know I was reading that you want to do a musical, you want to do sci-fi, you want to do action, of course. But how are you? How's the road so far?
Hopefully, the journey is not done.
Right.
Like you mentioned, there are still things out there that truly excite me, and being able to go into genres that I haven't delved in before keep me going.
Right.
And I think at the back of my mind, as I keep exploring this newer genres, I truly do want to make even more socially relevant cinema. It's something that is clearly bouncing around at the back of my head. I have, this is something I've stated very, very clearly, that I don't pick stories based on my, you know, topics that are passionate to me. I just need the story to talk to me first. That's how I pick my stories. Then I try and, infuse some of my own philosophy or whatever as the writing progresses. But I feel, again, it's a phase in life where I feel that one needs to tackle some socially relevant stuff too. The only film that I first chose the theme and then the story was Lakshmi, which I did in 2012, because I was just so horrified by the whole, underage prostitution and everything that goes on in India. So,
yeah.
but
And
otherwise,
in Hyderabad especially, actually.
I'm sorry?
Hyderabad especially.
Yeah, yeah. AP is very high on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, AP and Telangana both are very high on that. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately. So, yeah. So, yeah, these are the, so, while I delve into genres that I haven't, and that keeps me excited and happy, I really do want to do socially relevant stuff. And right now, the stories are kind of forming. Let's see. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, maybe I'll do something that will make me happy as well.
Nagesh, since you did Hyderabad Blues, there's been such a flood of people who came back and sort of, tried their hand at cinema and then did very well. People like Raj and DK, in fact, from your state, pretty much following the same arc and doing the same kind of movies initially. So in a way, you were the first, the pioneer of this trend. Sometimes when you look back, do you think what would maybe you would have been a CEO of a big startup, sometimes when you look back at the life you could have had in Atlanta, maybe move to Seattle eventually, become Sundar Pichai.
When I'm extremely frustrated, or more so when we were in the process of, when Ella and me were in the process of trying to raise money for each film, and mind you, being an independent filmmaker is never easy. And it's the same worldwide. It has nothing to do with India. It's always a challenge when you're playing, outside the mainstream. So at those moments, sometimes I'd be like, damn, a 9 to 5 with a fat paycheck would have been so desirable instead of, knocking on every door. And as Eli says, falling on your knees, getting up, dusting them off, and, moving on to the next one. But those moments are few and far in between. If there wasn't this deep madness, this I know passion is a word that's used too loosely by a lot of people, so I'm kind of staying away from it.
It's a kind of obsession.
Obsession, yeah, obsession, madness. If it wasn't there to be a storyteller, I don't think that I'd be here even after 25 years. I think my only success is the fact that I've survived.
No, and survived and done very well. And also, Nagesh, your movies get introduced to a fresh generation every time. Isn't that marvelous?
That is constantly something that shocks me.
Surprises you,
I can't say this enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pleasant who was like 25, 30 years younger, and he was saying Rockford was such an eye-opener and blah, blah. And I am genuinely constantly amazed. Yeah. Because when I look at my films, they clearly reek of, and obviously we keep changing as people, so, and films don't. So we are, judging them from a different lens each time. Right. And I look at them and find them raw and naive. And I'm amazed that they are talking to someone else. Yeah. From a different generation. So I'm just happy. I'm really happy, but I'm making them in a million years. I couldn't imagine that would happen.
Right. And I've read somewhere that once you make them, you never see them again. You just put them behind.
Yeah, it's an excruciating process to sit through something I've made. I mean, I can't say this enough. I just landed in India yesterday, Kaveri, and Modern Love Hyderabad dropped on July 8th when I was
Right.
still there. And my family, who loves me dearly and every time don't want me to leave the US, couldn't wait for me to get on the plane
Because
so they could all sit and watch Modern Love Hyderabad, because the rule at any home is very simple, that they will not watch anything that I've made when I'm around.
right.
So I left Phoenix uh, on the 9 a.m. flight on Saturday, and the entire family gathered that same day to watch Modern Love Hyderabad a few hours after I'd left. And as I was hitting the different places, and I had Wi-Fi on the flight, so I was getting these messages that they were watching this episode and what their comments were. So yeah. So
So,
yeah, I just died while watching my stuff. Sorry. Yeah. Please.
Nagesh, I was reading also, I read somewhere that you actually first began wanting to join Bollywood. Do you still, I wonder, as what? Was it as an actor? And second, do you still want Bollywood's acceptance?
I'll answer the first thing first and then get to the second one. I didn't know any better when I lived outside of India in the US. And the fact that I had no one from the industry, I didn't know any better. So I thought the only route to making a film was to join Bollywood. And then I didn't know what I would join Bollywood as. But before I came to India, I'd been studying acting. And those were the only qualifications I had. So I was like, oh, maybe I can become an actor and break into it. And then work as an AD under some director.
Right.
And, all the standard routes that a person took before these, OTT platforms just blew the industry wide open, right?
And thank God.
Yeah, thank God. Exactly. So that's how I was willing to put in my time. So that's why I said Bollywood, that was the only route I knew. Do I want to be part of the mainstream? I think the answer is self-evident in what I've done in the last 25 years, which is I've never played by those rules. I have always remained the outsider, even back, when the doors were thrown wide open in 2006 and 2007 and all
After
those.
Iqbal and Dor, I mean, people were just clamoring to be part of you.
And
aren't you at all tempted?
Yeah, and when I look back on it, sometimes not always with a certain sense of pride, because if I was smart enough to play my cards right and hobnob with the wealthy and the powerful, I could have gotten funding for my films a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to struggle and raise money for each film from different sources. So when I look at things like that, I'm like, I just wish I was a little bit smarter to play the game. But I think this stubborn streak in me to want to do things my way has both allowed me to make the kind of films I make, and at the same time created a lot of freaking angst in my own life, because it's not made the journey easier.
Right.
It's always easy to look back in hindsight and then, talk with a sense of pride or accomplishment and act like it was, the trials and tribulations were worth it and all that shit. But the truth was, sometimes it wasn't, and it was really difficult. But the only thing I can say with a certain sense of pride is I never compromised. Even, I mean, let's not talk about the overall thing that all of filmmaking is a compromise and
Yeah.
those deep things. We constantly compromise when we make our films. It's not that. But in terms of the kinds of things that I did, even when I made a film with Akshay Kumar,
Yeah.
uh, I didn't. That was my story. I had written it. So it wasn't that, oh, the doors were open. So instantly I went quote unquote commercial, because if you look at that, it's one of Akshay's least commercial films ever.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
So,
it
but
was a
anyway.
wonderful film, yeah. But I
Oh,
still
thank you.
remember, I want to remind you, of the time when Subhash Ghai would take you everywhere with him and show Iqbal to all of us. And I watched it twice, but you always had a petrified deer in the headlights kind of expression on your face. Because, I mean, it was also so all encompassing, that kind of love.
Yeah, and also, Kaveri, the reason the deer in the headlights thing is, um, prior to Iqbal, I had never shown my film to the
Ah,
industry for the release.
right.
So again, that's another thing of not playing by the industry rules. People
Right.
never knew what I was doing, because even when I wrote the script, the only person who got to see it was Elahe.
Elahi.
Even when the film was made, no one saw it uh, till I finished it, and it was time for releasing it. So there was no word, there was no association, there was no intermingling, no trials, the famous industry trials that go
Mm.
on, nothing. So I and since Iqbal, again, I've gone back to virtually not doing it. Lakshmi was the only other one that we showed it to a whole lot of people because we wanted as much traction as possible.
Right.
But other than that, I've not, because it doesn't come from arrogance, but from a philosophy that I genuinely believe in. I truly believe that for me, and whether it works for others or not, I don't know. Filmmaking is an extremely selfish, enjoyable process that it's not it's not a group vote.
Uh-huh. Right.
It's not a group vote. It is a one man or one woman's point of view,
Yeah.
and there's
Online.
no right. Yeah, and there's no right or wrong, right?
Right.
So I don't want to open the door on, oh, let me start taking people's
Right.
advice on this, because, oh, come on, advice and opinions are, the adage, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it. Everyone's got one, right? So I'm not going to open that door ever. So I just make it, put it out there, and if people like it, I'm thrilled. I'm grateful. All of those, and not false humility. I'm genuinely happy that what I made, people are watching. And if they didn't like it, I'm like, sorry, it didn't work for you, and that's about it. And that's it. It
So, so
one doesn't affect me.
Nagesh, where are you from eventually? I mean, where are you? Are you Phoenix? Are you Hyderabad? Are you Mumbai? Where are you?
It's a question that I raised when I made Hyderabad Blues.
Yeah.
Uh, I think there was some uh, deep voiceover that my character said, which place do I call
Yeah.
home, or some nonsense like that. And I'm still trying to answer it after all these years. I really, really don't know.
Hmm.
And it's ironic because when I land in the US, a lot of times it feels like I never left.
Hmm.
And when I land in India, a lot of times it feels like I never left.
Hmm.
So I there's some schizophrenia which keeps the two separate, and I
Hmm.
enjoy both equally. So I manage to sometimes keep my sanity.
So what do you have back in Phoenix? You have your friends, family, or what is it? If I'm not being too intrusive.
The actual city is Scottsdale, which is like a suburb of Phoenix, but Phoenix is the big city that envelops everything else. But the place is Scottsdale, where my brother and sister both live with their
Oh,
family.
acha.
And so over the last 10 years, that has become more of a home.
Okay.
Otherwise, Atlanta was my original home in the US.
Right.
And then I'd moved to Orange County, which is south of Los Angeles. But in the last 10 years, Scottsdale has become more of home.
Okay.
Um,
Are they techies too?
no. My sister's a school teacher.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah, and my brother's an oncologist.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So that's what takes me back there very often. But my friends and family are scattered all across the US. So even this time,
Right.
I did a quick US darshan in the 2 months I was there.
All your...
I touched. Yeah. I was in Houston, Chicago, Philadelphia, uh, uh, Austin, New York, New Orleans, Montreal, Ottawa. Yeah.
But it's amazing. So there's that part of you. Then there's a part that comes to Mumbai, I guess, or you live here for work. And there's Hyderabad, which is where your parents will always be, right? Your old home.
Yeah. So I think each place allows me to tolerate the other places. So every time I spent 2 months in the US, it was fabulous. And honestly, I couldn't wait to get on a plane to come back to be able to start the shoot of City of Dreams season 3. I just couldn't wait.
Lovely. I'm looking forward to that.
So next week I'm headed to Hyderabad. Can't wait to see my friends and again, eat some Hyderabadi khana back. So it's like, and I'm truly blessed in the fact that I have the ability, both time and the money to be able to do this.
Right.
So really can't complain.
So are you more of a sort of a solitary person? Do you you're more of a loner, or is that when you think best? What is it? You sort of travel through? You like traveling, or?
I love traveling. Love. It's the only thing that it's my only indulgence. Really don't care for cars or wealthy homes or clothes or now in my 50s I can actually realize that it's not a phase. It is who I am.
Who you are.
Yeah. So given that, I would say that's my one true love, just being able to travel. And thanks to Airbnb, my new love, which has happened in the last 3 or 4 years, is it actually started with a backpacking journey that I did in 2017 across 3 countries in South America.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my eye opener. And I realized that there's just not enough time to connect with so much in the world out there.
Mm-hmm.
And starting from 2017, I virtually have stopped staying in expensive hotels.
Right.
Now my only game is to stay in Airbnb and preferably rent a room from a family or a person already living there, not just rent the whole apartment.
Right.
And that has just opened up a new world for me, which has just made it so exciting.
Yeah, and so many characters you must be meeting. Yeah.
Yep. Just ammo for all the stuff that I want to write.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you take notes when you're traveling? What do you do?
I am a very, very diligent diary writer.
Right.
I have actively maintained a diary, I would say, easily for about the last 27 years at least.
Every day?
Yeah, every day. Every day. And obviously,
the old-fashioned way, or the old-fashioned way, or
Eagle diaries with a pen. The diaries must cost no more than 200 or 250 rupees.
Wow.
Yeah, and they must have a full day for Sunday. Sunday can't have a small footnote at the bottom of Saturday.
Right.
So yeah. So and
So
I truly
fascinating.
enjoy writing.
Your diaries must be worth publishing, I'm sure, Nagesh. I there there are there are no deep thoughts and revelations. And it was very interesting. I had finished Hyderabad Blues, Right.
and I had life. It was
Sorry, I missed that, Nagesh.
okay.
Yeah.
I
You
had
think
just
I
finished.
finished Hyderabad Blues?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had taken the biggest step of my life.
Huh.
Actually, being able to follow my dream and blah blah blah, all of those
Right.
things. And I was wondering what the next step would be.
Hmm.
And I went back to the US,
Hmm.
and I was the first thing was I was wondering what to write.
Right.
And my mom kept everything that you know I had kept as a child.
Oh,
So she had kept this. I had maintained a diary in my ninth and 10th grade,
wow.
and she had kept that.
Wow.
And that's how Rockford came about.
Oh, wow.
I started reading the diary, and I went crazy because it was a snapshot into my life in boarding school,
Right.
because it was filled with absolute mundane nonsense. And my diary writing even today is that.
Hmm.
Woke up at 7:40, you know, managed to get 7 hours sleep. Damn, it feels good to get good. It's just, there's nothing deep. There is absolutely nothing deep. And I think, so there is zero pressure on me to
Right.
write. See, if I wanted to keep the diary as a journal of my deep thoughts and,
Yeah.
epiphanies that life is revealing to me,
Right.
I think I would have probably written 10 pages in a year.
Right.
But it's the mundanity that I enjoy filling the page with that places no stress on me to write stuff,
Right.
because a lot of those pages have nonsense like, who knows, a good bowel movement. You know what I'm saying? It's 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 stuff like that. And I wrote that even when I was back in Montfort. That was this boarding school.
Right.
So it's stuff like that, that there's no pressure, right? You're not writing anything that you're going to look back and say, oh my God, I thought of these things when
When
I
I
was in
was,
my 30s,
yeah.
how brilliant I was. There's really no hubris.
Right.
So it's just nonsense.
So there's this wonderful comfort in just traveling alone and being light-footed, fleet-footed. It's I mean, it allows you to actually keep dreaming, no?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And see, when I tell people that the reason I don't repeat films
Yeah.
or projects, let's call it projects because now I'm doing a lot of shows, right?
Right.
It's because it allows me to live different lives each time I do it.
Right.
It's not BS, it's not clever. It's not like saying,
Right.
oh, each time I'm writing something, I'm doing something, it's forcing me to do something which I haven't done recently.
Right.
I can't just say it's forcing me to do something I've never done before,
Hmm.
because that's not true. I mean, if I'm doing season 3,
Yeah.
it's areas that I've visited before, but as long as I don't do the same thing back to back,
Hmm.
I keep things fresh in my head, because Modern Love allowed me to rediscover Hyderabad. Good Luck Saki forced me to learn about shooting.
Yeah.
Uh, Before the pandemic derailed everything, it was great fun to go talk with shooters,
Right.
uh, you know, go to shooting ranges. So each thing allows me to do something which I haven't done before. And for some reason, all doors are thrown open to filmmakers. People think we're deep, amazing people. So, uh, normal doors, people don't open their hearts. But the moment you say you're a writer, director, people reveal all kinds of garbage to you. And I love that. And I play that card carefully. But I'll give you the most recent thing. I was on a train, and I still love traveling by trains as much as I can.
Lovely.
I was on a train from Wilmington, Delaware to Newark, New Jersey. And on the train, this woman in her 30s sat down. And usually, most often in trains in the West, everyone keeps to themselves.
Yeah.
No one, yeah. But she needed to charge. I was sitting close to the window. She needed to charge her cell phone. So she asked if she could use the charger. So I pulled my charger out and I was like, yeah, I have enough juice. So I plugged hers in. And, we said hello and that was it. There was one woman who's talking very loudly on the cell phone across the aisle. So that was the icebreaker. I said, I can't believe people are so rude. So she started talking.
Right.
And in that 1 hour, it was a woman who just got divorced. She was Colombian.
Right.
I swear there was a movie in there. and usually to people when I travel, I'm a chemical engineer. Because the moment I say that,
yeah,
it's very clear that I have nothing interesting to say. And then I get to know a little more about them, and I don't play the filmmaker card that often, but I played it with this woman.
Right.
And the kind of stuff she told me, it was like, since you're a filmmaker, you'll understand. And it was unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Right.
And then after a little while, she wasn't sure if I had just, said it. So she asked me my name, and thanks to Google,
she Googled it.
She Googled, and the next 5 minutes before she got up were the most adorable. She took selfies. She said, "Oh my God, I think fate will make our paths cross again," and this and that. It was, tell me, where are you going to have this experience?
Yeah.
Those 2 hours were just magical.
Right.
So,
how wonderful. So it's possibly the best life you could have imagined, right?
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. I mean, can you imagine being stuck as a stupid engineer with, and I'm saying this even 25 years after being a filmmaker. Earlier, I would say this very cleverly, saying my worst nightmare was waking up one day and realizing I had a house in the suburb, a wife, 2 kids, and a dog.
Yeah, right.
I would say that, but can you imagine if that was my life? Oh my God, it would have been awful. Just awful.
So do you actually have, last question, no more after this. Nagesh, sorry, but do you actually have a home apart from your parents or no?
No,
I'm now getting very worried about you.
That's adorable. No, one of the things that I did, and very, very, very proudly, I lived out of 2 suitcases. I quit my job in 96. Okay. And the first apartment that I bought was in 2007. It's the apartment that I own in Bombay. I bought it in 2007. For those 10 years, going on 11, I swear I lived out of 2 suitcases.
Okay. Wow.
And all my precious stuff, my diaries, my photographs, all my memories, they're in neat little cardboard boxes at my brother's place in Scottsdale.
Wow.
But everything else, I just lived out of 2 suitcases. And it was unbelievable. and I'm not going to use words like liberating and all that, because now since I have an apartment, I've gathered a ton of junk.
Yeah.
So it is. I think it's only human to
Yeah.
keep throwing stuff, but it's it was wonderful back then. And since I started backpacking, now again I travel with just a freaking carry-on, a
Wow.
backpack and a carry-on. So I go on a lot of these trips with a backpack and a carry-on, and I can't even tell you how fabulous that is. Earlier, I'd have to have a proper suitcase and the clothes for different occasions, and with this whole 5-star thing, there was, you were stressed with the dress code a little bit, little bit. Now I dress like a bum, and it's fabulous. It's just absolutely fabulous.
Please continue to make the movies and the series that you do. It was just so lovely. I really adored Modern Love Hyderabad, and it sort of reminded me of what we were as a country as well. I wish every city would be like that.
Oh, you just made my day. And please come visit me when I'm in Hyderabad. And I promise you, I'll feed you the best biryani, not the crap that people pass off as the best biryani.
Paradise biryani, which
no, that's garbage.
I know.
That's no. I promise. So please come to Hyderabad.
Great. Which is the best biryani, by the way?
It's made only in people's homes.
Okay.
Getting it outside is very difficult. There are 1 or 2 places that make decent, still not the greatest. And we have a magic caterer with us called Asif Saab, who makes arguably the best biryani all the time.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, and please take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kaveree. Bye. Bye.